Continuing. Yet, when they put it over the cup, the angel, bowing his head reverently, the light of the cup goes out entirely, and as the light of the cup vanishes, it is like a swift sunset in the whole air, for it was from the light of that cup alone that it was lighted. And now the light is all gone out of the stone. I am very cold. Bu Sada, December 4 through 5, 1909, 11:30 p.m. to 1:20 a.m. And before we go into the cry of the 13th author, which is called Zim, we are reminded by Lo E not only of Enochian things like, I'm guessing every single one here connects to the Enochian keys and other things like that, but we're reminded of the stages of love. And sometimes we have to be willing to step outside the what we're told or what we've contrived as morality. The socially inappropriate love. I mean, we don't have to neglect the slave master love of God, the friendship love of God, the parent-child. You love your parent and you love your parents and your children for the sake of God, and then you love your spouses and you pick your spouse and that sort of thing for God. And you don't have to neglect those 4 stages, but the socially inappropriate level of love of God is certainly something that brings you to a whole new level. The cry of the 13th author, which is called Zim. Into the stone there cometh an image of shining waters, glistening in the sun, unfathomable is their beauty, for they are limpid, and the floor is of a gold, yet the sense thereof is of fruitlessness. And an angel cometh forth of pure pale gold, walking upon the water. Above the head is a rainbow, and the water foams beneath his feet. And he saith, Before his face am I come, that hath the 33 thunders of increase in his hand. From the golden water shalt thou gather corn. All the air behind him is gold. But it opens, as it were, a veil. There are 2 terrible black giants, wrestling in mortal hatred, and there is a little bird upon a bush, and the bird flaps its wings. Thereat the strength of the giants snaps, and they fall in heaps to the earth, as though all their bones were suddenly broken. And now waves of light roll through the Aethyr, as if they were playing. Therefore suddenly I am in a garden, upon a terrace of great castle, and it is upon a rocky mountain. In the garden are fountains and many flowers. There are girls also in the garden, tall, slim, delicate, and pale. And now I see that the flowers are the girls, for they change from one to another, so varied and lucent and harmonious is all this garden, that it seems like a great opal. A voice comes. This water, which thou seest, is called the water of death. But Nemo hath filled therefrom our springs. And I said, Who is Nemo? And the voice answereth, A dolphin's tooth, and a ram's horns, and the hand of a man that is hanged, and the phallus of a goat. By this I understand that Noon is explained by Sheen, and Hay by Resh, and Meme by Yud, and Ayin by Tau. Nemo is therefore called 165 equals 11 times 15, and is in himself 910 minus 91, amen times 10, and 113 times 70, the one I, Achid Ein. And now there cometh an angel into the garden, but he hath not any of the attributes of the former angels, for he is like a young man, dressed in white linen robes. And he saith, No man hath beheld the face of my Father, therefore he that hath beheld it is called Nemo. And know that every man that is called Nemo hath a garden that he tendeth, and every garden that is and flourisheth hath been prepared from the desert by Nemo, watered with the waters that were called death. And I say unto him, To what end is the garden prepared? And he saith, First, for the beauty and delight thereof, and next because it is written, and Tetragrammaton Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, planted a garden eastward in Eden, and lastly because, though every flower bringeth forth a maiden, yet is there one flower that shall bring forth a man-child, and his name shall be called Nemo. When he beholdeth the face of my Father, and he that tendeth the garden seeketh not to single out the flower that should be called Nemo. He doth not, but tend the garden. And I said, Pleasant indeed is the garden, and light is the toil of tending it, and great is the reward. And he said, But think thee that Nemo hath beheld the face of my Father, in him is only peace. And I said, Are all gardens like unto this garden? And he waved his hand, and in the air, across the valley, appeared an island of coral, rosy with green palms and fruit trees, in the midst of the bluest of the seas. And he waved his hand again, and there appeared a valley shut in by mighty snow mountains, and in it were pleasant streams of water rushing through, and broad rivers, and lakes covered with lilies. And he waved his hand again, and there was a vision, as it were of an oasis in the desert. And again he waved his hand, and there was a dim country, with grey rocks, and heather, and gorse, and bracken. And he waved his hand yet again, and there was a park, and a small house therein, surrounded by yews. This time the house opens, and I see in it an old man, sitting by the table. He is blind, yet he writeth in a great book constantly. I see what he is writing. The words of the book are as the leaves of the flowers in the garden. Many indeed of these my songs shall go forth as maidens, but there is one among them which one I know not, and that shall be a man-child, whose name shall be Nemo. When he hath beheld the face of the Father, and become blind. All this vision is most extraordinarily pleasant and peaceful, and entirely without strength or ecstasy, or any positive quality, but equally free from the opposites of any of those qualities. And the young man seems to read my thought, which is, that I should love to stay in this garden, and do nothing forever. For he saith to me, Come with me, and behold how Nemo tendeth his garden. So we entered the earth, and there was a veiled figure, in absolute darkness, yet it is perfectly possible to see in it, so that the minutest details do not escape us. And upon the root of one flower he pours acid, so that the root withers as if in torture, and another he cuts, and the shriek is like the shriek of a mandrake, torn up by the roots. And another he chars with fire, and yet another he anoints with oil. And I said, Heavy is the labor, but great indeed is the reward. And the young man answered me, He shall not see the reward. He tendeth the garden. And I said, what shall come unto him? And he said, This thou canst not know, nor is it revealed by the letters that are the totems of the stars, but only by the stars. And he says to me, quite disconnectedly, the man of the earth is the adherent. The lover giveth his life unto the work among men. The hermit goeth solitary, and giveth only of his light unto men. And I ask him, Why does he tell me that? And he says, I tell thee not, thou tellest thyself, for thou hast pondered thereupon for many days, and thou hast not found light. And now that thou art called Nemo, the answer to every riddle thou hast not found shall spring up in thy mind unsought. Who can tell upon what day a flower shall bloom? And thou shalt give thy wisdom unto the world, and that shall be thy garden. And concerning time and death, thou hast not to do with these things. For though a precious stone be hidden in the sand of the desert, it shall not heed for the wind of the desert, although it be but sand. For the wonder of works hath worked thereupon, and because it is clear, it is invisible, and because it is hard, it moveth not. And these words are heard by every one that is called Nemo. And with that doth he apply himself to understanding. And he must understand the virtue of the waters of death, and he must understand the virtue of the sun and the wind, and of the worm that turneth the earth, and of the stars that roof in the garden. And he must understand the separate nature and property of every flower, or how shall he tend his garden? And I said to him concerning the vision and the voice, I would know if these things be of the essence of the author, or of the essence of the seer. And he answers, It is of the essence of him that is called Nemo, combined with the essence of the author. For from the first author to the 15th author, there is no vision and no voice, save for him that is called Nemo. And he that seeketh the vision and the voice therein is led away by dog-faced demons that show no sign of truth, seducing from the sacred mysteries, unless his name be Nemo. And hadst thou not been fitted, thou too hast been led away. For before the gate of the 15th author it is written, He shall send them strong delusions, that they should believe a lie. And again it is written, The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. And again it is written, that God tempteth man. But thou hadst the word and the sign, and thou hadst authority from thy superior and license, and thou hadst done well in that thou didst not dare, and in that thou dost dare, for daring is not presumption. And he said, moreover, Thou dost well to keep silence, for I perceive how many questions arise in thy mind, yet already known, that the answering is the asking, must be vain, for Nemo hath all in himself, and he hath come where there is no light or knowledge, only when he needeth them no more. And then we bow silently, giving a certain sign, called the sign of Isis rejoicing. And then he remaineth toward the author, while I return unto the bank of sand, that is the bed of the river near the desert. And I'm getting rumbly in the tumbly. The riverbed near Bu Sada, November 4th, 1909, 2:10 to 3:45 p.m. But I will not attend to it just yet. I have another one to do.